Welcome to the Story World channel. Enjoy your viewing experience. Nicole meticulously stashed away the freshly washed dishes, her hands gracefully gliding over the gleaming surfaces. She cast a quick, contented glance at her neatly organized workspace, satisfied with the orderliness she always maintained. Her job held immense value for her, for it was the only opportunity she could secure. In stark contrast to misconceptions about her, Nicole was far from being unattractive or unintelligent. On the contrary, she had devoted herself to numerous online courses, making her proficient enough to effortlessly replace any worker at the cafe without causing any harm to the establishment. However, there was one aspect of her that set her apart. Nicole was mute. When Mr. Sutton, the cafe owner, pondered the decision to hire her, he recognized the potential challenges. But Nicole refused to beg or compromise her dignity. She had self-respect, even when life hadn't been entirely kind to her. Before arriving at the cafe, she had traversed half the city in search of suitable work, carrying all her educational documents with her, only to find doors closed to her for jobs that required communication. Rejection followed her footsteps, and her options dwindled until the cafe became one of the few remaining choices. Mr. Sutton drummed his fingers on the table as he contemplated her potential role. He understood the constraints of her condition, making certain positions unsuitable for her. However, he recognized her determination and sought to find a role where she could excel. "I'm afraid I can't place you behind the bar or hire you as a waitress. Similarly, becoming a cook's assistant may not be feasible if you can't refer to notes constantly," Mr. Sutton explained, looking for a solution. Nicole listened intently and didn't let disappointment show on her face. She acknowledged his concerns with a nod, allowing him to continue. "Nonetheless, I do have some vacancies, and I believe there's a role you can handle. I can offer you a job as a dishwasher. You won't need to speak there. Only wash the dishes." Suppressing her excitement, Nicole nodded again, appreciating the opportunity given to her. "All right then, start tomorrow. And please don't take offense, but I'll keep an eye on you initially," Mr. Sutton said, hoping he had made the right choice. Nicole grinned, her eyes revealing her gratitude and determination to prove herself. From the very first day, Mr. Sutton noticed that his decision had been wise. Nicole worked diligently, avoiding distractions and refraining from indulging in long breaks. Her dishwashing skills were nothing short of exceptional, and he never encountered a pile of unwashed plates in the sink. Within a week, Mr. Sutton proudly highlighted Nicole as an exemplary employee during a staff meeting, using her as an example to inspire Lily, a shift worker who came through a friend's recommendation. Lily, who had reluctantly taken the job, held a sense of entitlement, but her performance paled in comparison to Nicole's remarkable dedication. Nicole's quiet, diligent presence in the cafe transformed her into an inspiration for others. Her perseverance and impeccable work ethic brought admiration and respect from her colleagues, proving that even in the absence of words, actions could speak volumes. Nicole turned abruptly as Lily uttered those words. Both Lily and her waitress friend stood behind her, wearing big smiles. "Well, give me an answer that's at least worthy," Nicole replied. The two friends burst into laughter while Nicole simply walked away, unfazed. In her mind, she pondered the idea that if God hadn't given people brains, searching for one wouldn't make any sense. 6 months passed, and Lily and her friend continued to tease Nicole, but they did so in a more polite manner when the boss was around. The other workers remained neutral, observing the interactions from the sidelines and chuckling. Nicole didn't have any particular close friendships at work, especially not with someone who considered her a dishwasher woman, let alone a mute one. However, at home, things were different. As she stepped through the door, she was always greeted warmly by Ollie, the cat she had picked up almost immediately after her parents' tragic demise 4 years ago. Since then, she had stopped talking altogether. Doctors initially treated her, attributing her silence to stress and her body's reaction to the traumatic events. Medication proved ineffective, and it became evident that Nicole needed the expertise of a specialized psychiatrist. Unfortunately, finding one who could help her was a challenge. Over time, though, she grew accustomed to her silence. Nicole realized it had its advantages, as she no longer had to respond to well-meaning inquiries about how she was coping with her loss. The accident that claimed her parents' lives had been life-changing. Nicole sat in the front passenger seat of the car that day, refusing to fasten her seatbelt despite her father's scolding. However, fate intervened, and at the moment of impact with a truck, she was thrown aside, battered and bruised, but alive. Her parents weren't as fortunate. After being released from the hospital, Nicole was walking back home when she heard a faint squeak. Investigating, she found Ollie near the garbage cans, wet, dirty, and frighteningly emaciated. Without hesitation, she brought him into her life, even though finances were tight. Now, Ollie had grown into a majestic, lazy, and incredibly beautiful cat. He was her silent companion, bringing her solace and comfort during the quiet moments of her life. Together, they navigated the complexities of life, finding strength in each other's company. He would often gaze out the window with a condescending air, observing the people walking below. He loved to indulge in eating, sleeping, and allowed Nicole to shower him with affection. Sometimes, she couldn't help but smile, thinking that it was as if she was the one living with the cat, not the other way around. One evening, after her shift at the cafe, Nicole left with some of her coworkers. However, after a few steps, she suddenly stopped and walked towards a bench where a homeless man sat. Nicole recognized the same look on the man's face that her beloved cat, Ollie, had when he sat behind the garbage bins. Lily, noticing why Nicole had stopped, couldn't resist taunting her friend, saying, "Look, Nicole has found herself a suitor." The two girls burst out laughing, but Nicole paid them no mind and approached the homeless man, who seemed oblivious to her presence. Of course, she'll be satisfied even with a hobo. What else can she do? Nature demands it, and no normal guy would look at her. Lily continued her mockery. Unperturbed by the taunts, Nicole continued to help the homeless man to his feet and led him towards her house. 15 minutes later, they both entered her modest apartment. Nicole assisted the man in taking off his ragged clothes, which she noticed were once fairly fashionable. Quickly, she rummaged through her wardrobe, pulling out her late father's bathrobe and slippers, handing them to the man. Then she pointed towards the bathroom and the kitchen, indicating that he could use them. The man, who appeared to be over 50, maybe even 60, smiled gratefully and nodded. "I've understood. I'll freshen up and join you in the kitchen," he said in a raspy voice. After a refreshing shower, the man became almost unrecognizable. Nicole was relieved to see no signs of addiction or a troubled past etched on his now clean and grateful face. She poured soup into 2 bowls and set out some bread, gesturing for him to sit on the chair. "Why are you so quiet, my savior? What's your name?" the man asked, breaking the silence. Nicole grabbed a notebook and pen, quickly jotting down her response. He shook his head, appearing melancholic, and replied, "Such a pity. You're so young and beautiful, and I'm almost like you. I can talk, but I do not remember my name, surname, or where I come from." Nicole hardly uttered a word. Instead, she communicated through writing. Curiosity and empathy filled her as she asked the man, "How long have you been on the streets?" The man shrugged and replied, "About a month, maybe more. I woke up somewhere else, a large dump outside the city. The local homeless folks helped me regain my senses. But I was scared because I couldn't remember anything. My head was pounding and I was covered in blood. It seemed someone had attacked me. I thought of going to the police, but those vagrants discouraged me, warning that they don't treat homeless people kindly there. Even though I can't recall anything, it's still unsettling." Nicole continued the conversation, asking, "You don't even know if you're from this city, do you?" The man shook his head, indicating his complete lack of memory. A notion struck Nicole, driven by her experiences of finding companionship online during her years of silence. She grabbed her old phone, which had a subpar camera, and snapped a photo of the elderly man. Though uncertain of the outcome, she decided to try and find his relatives. She arranged a makeshift bed for him on the couch and wrote in her notebook, "You can live with me for now. I'll do my best to find your relatives." Despite her efforts, the internet search yielded no results. Nonetheless, Tom, as Nicole named the man, didn't burden her in any way. In fact, he brought an unexpected joy to her life. The house became filled with delicious smells and lively conversations between Tom and her beloved cat, Ollie. The feline accepted Tom unconditionally, and Nicole felt a tinge of jealousy as Ollie now preferred Tom's company. Yet, amid the happiness that Tom's presence brought, Lily and her waitress friend couldn't resist spreading rumors at work. They gleefully told everyone about Nicole taking in a male homeless person, as if no one else would ever date her. Despite the hurtful gossip, Nicole chose not to respond, hoping the talk would eventually fade away. However, every day, either Lily or her friend would loudly inquire about Nicole's homeless guy, asking if he stank a lot and whether he was fulfilling his manly duties. Nicole held her composure, knowing the real value of Tom's companionship and the kindness she had shown him. The judgments and cruel words from others couldn't overshadow the connection they had formed in a world that had misunderstood them both. With Tom by her side and Ollie's comforting presence, Nicole found solace and strength in her unique and unexpected little family. Laughter filled the room, echoing off the walls as the staff's joyous outbursts shook the very chairs they sat upon. Nicole was a regular visitor to the storage room, seeking refuge from the prying questions that plagued her. No matter how hard she tried, it seemed impossible to prove anything to the taunting individuals armed with pens and notebooks. Time passed, and a month elapsed since Nicole last saw her elderly guest, Tom. She speculated that perhaps he felt lonely, or maybe circumstances had forced him out of his apartment. No matter where she checked, in none of the cities where she had friends, many of them, were there any reports of missing people matching Tom's description. Then, unexpectedly, one day, Tom vanished without a trace. On the stairs, Nicole heard Ollie, her cat, mewing loudly. Opening the door, she was met with a reproachful gaze from the feline. Only later did she realize that Ollie was bored and couldn't comprehend Tom's sudden absence or the silence surrounding his departure. Nicole, too, was clueless about her lodger's whereabouts, even though the house remained tidy and the dinner she had prepared still emanated warmth. Amidst the quiet of the house, a note on the table caught Nicole's attention. It was from Tom, asking for forgiveness and explaining an urgent departure. He assured her that he remembered everything and promised they would see each other soon. At first, Nicole felt upset and accustomed to having Tom around, almost like a fatherly figure. But then she scolded herself, understanding that if he had left, it must have been because he felt needed elsewhere, and that was a good thing. People shouldn't have to live without their loved ones. The mystery of how Lily found out about Tom's disappearance puzzled Nicole. The following day at work, Lily wasted no time in mocking her, cruelly suggesting that even a homeless man had abandoned her. The malicious laughter of her coworkers added to the humiliation. Nicole attempted to walk away, but Lily deliberately blocked her path, continuing to taunt her about Tom's departure. The cruelty of Lily's words stung, questioning Nicole's worth and attractiveness compared to Tom. It was as if age and looks were the only things that mattered to them. Unable to bear the humiliation any longer, a surge of anger overcame Nicole. Recalling her past experiences in the sports section during her school years, she instinctively showed Lily an impressive carette move, catching her off guard. The room fell silent, and Lily's sarcastic comments ceased. Although her action surprised even herself, Nicole realized that she couldn't let anyone degrade her self-worth. Lily's words were hurtful, but they didn't define her. Amidst the silence, someone finally spoke up, praising Nicole's courage to stand up against bullying. The room's atmosphere shifted, and people began to reconsider their actions. Lily, seemingly humbled, admitted that she had gone too far. "I don't hit women, of course," she said, acknowledging her own limits. But then, in a moment of realization, she questioned Nicole's humanity. "Is that even a woman? She isn't even human," she sneered. Nicole took a deep breath, refusing to be drawn into another confrontation. She realized that some people were unwilling to change their ways, but she could control her own actions and reactions. Walking away with her head held high, Nicole decided that she wouldn't allow anyone to determine her worth. She knew that she deserved respect and dignity, just like any other human being. And with that newfound conviction, she moved forward, determined to face whatever challenges lay ahead with grace and strength. As Nicole turned around in surprise, a young man stood beside her, lazily smiling and extending his hand. "My name is Harrison," he said. "I'm the son of that homeless man you took in." The staff left in tears, and Lily listened with astonishment to their conversation. Nicole quickly grabbed her notepad, eager to hear more. Relieved to hear that the homeless man was okay, she asked, "Why did he leave without saying goodbye?" Harrison raised his hands and grinned, replying, "He'll answer all your questions himself. He's at home under the doctor's observation. I came here to get you. You see, if it weren't for you, my wife, soon to be my ex-wife, would have sent him to jail, believing she had the right to decide who should live and how." Nicole smiled, touched by the gesture. Harrison continued, "You won't have to come back to work here. I guarantee you that. The treatment my dad provides will definitely cure your illness, and you'll be able to live a full, normal life." He spoke warmly, leading her to a white SUV. As they drove away, Nicole caught a glimpse of Lily, whom she had seen only once after these events. Lily and her husband Harrison had come to Nicole's hometown to sell her apartment, and they happened to cross paths one evening during a walk. At first, Lily didn't recognize Nicole, and it was quite challenging to see the gorgeous woman engaged in conversation with a handsome man as the once mute and unassuming Nicole. When Lily finally grasped who was standing before her, she opened her mouth, but then quickly turned around and walked away in the opposite direction, seemingly avoiding a confrontation to prevent any potential upset. Life took a turn for the better for Nicole, thanks to the care and support of the homeless man, now revealed to be Harrison's father. The kindness she had shown him during his time of need came back to her in the form of a new chance at life. With her illness being treated and the darkness of her past left behind, Nicole embraced her newfound freedom with gratitude and determination. From that point on, Nicole's days were filled with hope and joy. She no longer needed to endure the taunts and mocking of her former workplace. Instead, she lived a life of purpose and happiness, surrounded by people who appreciated her for who she truly was. As time passed, Nicole and Harrison grew closer. Their bond deepened and their love blossomed. They embarked on a journey together, supporting each other through the ups and downs that life inevitably brought their way. In the end, it was a story of redemption, love, and the transformative power of compassion. Nicole's act of kindness towards a stranger had changed not only his life, but also her own. And as they walked hand in hand, embracing the future together, they knew that their paths had been destined to intersect, leading them to a brighter and more fulfilling life ahead.